Plarium needs to make these 22 changes. These are not changes that Plarium can make, they're changes that Plarium need to make. And if you do enjoy the video, consider liking and subscribing. I'm on the road to 2,000 subscribers so I can start doing giveaways. So first are the big changes, and the first change is removing the combat points limit. Combat points make it so every time you play a battle, you get silver crates. Currently, there's a limit of 600 combat points, but I believe it's necessary to remove this combat points limit. This will make it so players can get infinite silver crates for playing battles. This change won't get players crazy amount of rewards, but it's at least another way for players to get more blueprints, credits, and acoins. The next change is adding spectator mode to the game. Currently, the only way to record Mech Arena gameplay is by the first person. Adding a spectator mode will allow you to create third-person content as well. How this change will work is that if one of your friends is in battle, you can spectate them. So this change will be very useful for creating better content, and it's a good way to spectate your friends as well. The next change is to make tournament last only 2 hours. Currently how tournament works is that it ends at 5:40 a.m. UTC regardless of when you join it. So if you join at 9 p.m. UTC, it'll end at 5:40 a.m. UTC. So for some players it's fine because 5:40 a.m. UTC is in the daytime, but for some players 5:40 a.m. UTC is in the middle of the night. So if they want to get first place in tournament, they need to have a lead of at least 5,000 or 10,000 to do that. This is because when they sleep, the person in second place can catch up to them. So they need to have a massive lead just to get first place. But with this change, tournament will only last 2 hours regardless of when you start it. So if you join 9 p.m. UTC, it'll end at 11 p.m. UTC. So players can join when they're free and they only have to play 2 hours of tournament. Next is the mech changes. The first change is increasing redox ability damage by 50%. This will make Redox's ability damage to 68,000 damage. Redox is definitely the worst legendary mech in the game. If the game is to be balanced, there can't be one mech that's too strong or too weak. I think this is enough to make Redox a much more viable mech. The next change is decreasing Sentinel's cooldown by 2 seconds. So how Sentinel's cooldown works is that the lower his HP is, the faster his cooldown is. So this change will make his cooldown 2 seconds shorter at all percentages. This will allow Sentinel to cycle shields much faster and make him a much more viable mech. Sentinel is definitely the worst epic mech and needs a buff. The next change is increasing MD's radius by 100%. This change will increase his radius from 10 meters to 20 meters. This change will allow him to heal enemies from much farther away, which is really important. The reason why this is important is because if he's close to his teammates, splash weapons like disc launchers and mortars can wreck both of them. But with this change, he can safely heal his teammates. And the next change is to make MD's self-heal the same as his team heal. So currently his self-heal is half as much HP as his team heal. But with this change, they'll both be the same amount of HP. MD is definitely the worst uncommon mech and he's probably the worst mech in the game. These changes will make MD much better compared to all the other uncommon mechs. The next change is to increase Zephyr's stun duration by 33%. They hit Zephyr really hard by changing his stun from 6 seconds to 3 seconds. So I don't think the stun should be back to 6 seconds, but I think it should be to 4 seconds at least. 4 seconds is the same as Surge's stun and I think it's balanced. The next change is increasing Zephyr's HP by 20%. This change would make his HP to 200,000 HP with the pilot. This change will make Zephyr much tankier and much better at stunning enemies. Zephyr is one of the weakest epic mechs in the game and he needs these 2 buffs as well. The next change is increasing Arachnos' turret damage by 75%. This will make his turret damage from 35,000 to 61,000. You might think that this is too much for a rare mech, but it really isn't. This is only the damage that Arachnos would deal if the enemy is standing still. Since the turret's projectile speed is so bad, more than half the shots miss the enemy if they're moving. So Arachnos' turret wouldn't deal 61,000, it'll deal around 30,000. And the next change will be increasing the turret's projectile speed by 50%. I don't know exactly what the projectile speed of the turret is, but I'm guessing it's around 100, which is similar to the plasma cannons. But this change will make the projectile speed to 150, which is around the same as the carbines. These 2 changes will make Arachnos much better compared to all the other rare mechs. The next change will be increasing Brickhouse's movement speed from 14 kilometers per hour to 16 kilometers per hour. Brickhouse's movement speed is painfully slow and this would make it much better. Brickhouse is also one of the worst legendary mechs and this will make it much more viable. The next change is increasing the shadow and eclipse speed implants by 15%. These two implants are really fun to use, but they're very underwhelming. I think increasing the speed boost from 15% to 30% would make the implant much better. The next change is increasing Puma and Slingshot's HP by 20%. This will make their HP from 67,000 to 81,000. This is around the same HP as Shadow, which is much more balanced. Puma and Slingshot have the worst HP in the game and they're way too squishy. They are also the two worst uncommon mechs in the game. Increasing their HP would make them much better compared to all the other uncommon mechs. The next change is increasing Tengu's movement speed to 28 kilometers per hour. It makes no sense that Tengu is way slower than all the other scout mechs. This change will make his movement speed from 23 kilometers per hour to 28 kilometers per hour. Tengu is one of the worst rare mechs in the game and he definitely needs this buff. Next, the weapon changes, and the first change is increasing the Gauss rifle's damage by 50%. This will make the Gauss rifle 10's DPS from 16,000 damage to 25,000 damage. The Gauss rifle is definitely the worst rare weapon in the game and it definitely needs this buff. The next change is increasing the stasis beam's damage by 100%. This will make the stasis beam 16's DPS from 16,000 damage to 32,000 damage. This is still pretty bad compared to all the other 16 energy weapons, but it'll definitely make the stasis beams much better. The next change is increasing the carbine's damage by 25%. This will make their DPS from 35,000 damage to 44,000 damage. The carbines are definitely much worse than the other sustained fire weapons, and this change will make their DPS compared to them. The next change is increasing the nade launcher's projectile speed by 50%. This will make their projectile speed from 45 to 67.5. The missile racks have a projectile speed of 80 to put that into perspective. This will make them fire much faster and be better at longer ranges. The next change is increasing the fusion cannon's damage by 25%. This will make their DPS from 35,000 damage to 43,000 damage. The fusion cannons are definitely a very underwhelming weapon and definitely need this buff. The next change is increasing the damage fall off of the EMs by 22%. Currently, the EMs have an average damage fall off of 0.78% per meter. What this means is that for every meter you get closer, the damage of the EMs gets reduced by an average of 0.78%. So at point blank range, the damage of the EMs is 41.5% of their full damage. This is way too much damage at point blank range. 41.5% is almost half of the full damage and it needs to be reduced. So I'm proposing to make it so that the damage fall off of the EMs goes down by 1% per meter. This makes it so that the EMs deal way less damage the closer you get. The EMs will deal 25% of their full damage at point blank range, which I think is much more balanced. And the last change is to fix the EM rifle range bug. With this bug, the EM rifle range implant is reducing the optimal range of the EMs by 30%. So it's making the optimal range of the EMs from 75 plus meters to 52.5 plus meters. This implant is making the EM rifles deal way more damage. It increases the damage of the EMs by an average of 12%. The EM rifles pretty much have a second weapon damage implant. So fixing this bug will reduce the damage of the EM rifles by 12% under 75 meters. And this, along with increasing the damage fall off of the EMs, will reduce the EM's damage by 36.4%. At 75 plus meters, the damage will still be the same, but at under 75 meters, the damage will be much less. It's fine if the EM rifles deal a ton of damage at 75 meters plus, but at below 75 meters, they should be dealing way less damage. Close range should actually be a weakness for the EMs. So Plarium definitely needs to implement all of these changes. They're super important for the balance of the game. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, like and subscribe, and see you guys.